Hi friends, we are back for the next session of Fantastic Mr. Fox. We are already on chapter 13. It's a very short book compared to the one and only Ivan, but I'm really excited because I think we're reaching the climax of this story and we're going to see how not only Mr. Fox gets out of this really crazy situation he found himself in, but see if maybe he's able to help the other animals that are in a similar situation because of him getting caught. So we are on page 50, and the chapter is titled Bunce's Giant Storehouse. "My dear Foxy," cried Badger, "what in the world has happened to your tail?" "Don't talk about it, please," said Mr. Fox. "It's a painful subject." They were digging the new tunnel. They dug on in silence. Badger was a great digger, and the tunnel went forward at a terrific pace now that he was lending a paw. Soon they were crouching underneath yet another wooden floor. Mr. Fox grinned slyly, showing sharp white teeth. "If I am not mistaken, my dear Badger," he said, "we are now underneath the farm which belongs to that nasty little pot-bellied dwarf Bunce. We are, in fact, directly underneath the most interesting part of the farm." "Ducks and geese," cried the small foxes, licking their lips. "Juicy, tender ducks and big fat geese." "Exactly," said Mr. Fox. "But how in the world can you know where we are?" asked Badger. Mr. Fox grinned again, showing even more white teeth. "Look," he said, "I know my way around these farms blindfolded. For me, it's just as easy below ground as it is above it." He reached high and pushed up one wooden floorboard, then another. He poked his head through the gap. "Yes," he shouted, jumping up into the room above. "I've done it again. I've hit it smack on the nose, right in the bullseye. Come and look." So as we can see, this is the tunnel that they're creating over here, and that's 3 of Mr. Fox's kids and then their new friend Badger. So they have found another floorboard. Quickly Badger and the 3 small foxes scrambled up after him. They stopped and stared. They stood and gaped. They were so overwhelmed they couldn't speak, for what they now saw was a kind of fox's dream, a badger's dream, a paradise for hungry animals. "This, my dear old Badger," proclaimed Mr. Fox, "is Bunce's mighty storehouse. All his finest stuff is stored in here before he sends it off to market. Against all the 4 walls of the great room, stacked in cupboards and piled up upon shelves reaching from floor to ceiling, were thousands and thousands of finest and fattest ducks and geese, plucked and ready for roasting. And up above, dangling from the rafters, there must have been at least 100 smoked hams and 50 sides of bacon." So Sonia, if you're watching this, I know you're a vegetarian, so I know this would not be a happy finding for you. "Just feast your eyes on that," cried Mr. Fox, dancing up and down. "What'd you think of it, eh? Pretty good grub." So this is them when they first see everything, but this is what they find. A whole storage room of these geese and ducks. Suddenly, as though springs had been released in their legs, the three hungry small foxes and the ravenous hungry Badger sprang forward to grab the luscious food. "Stop," ordered Mr. Fox. "This is my party, so I shall do the choosing." The others fell back, licking their chops. Mr. Fox began prowling around the storehouse, exclaiming the glorious display with an expert eye. A thread of saliva slid down one side of his jaw and hung suspended in midair, then snapped. "We mustn't overdo it," he said. "Mustn't give the game away. Mustn't let them know that what we've been up to. We must be neat and tidy and take just a few of the choicest morsels. So to start with, we shall have 4 plump young ducks." He took them from the shelf. "Oh, how lovely and fat you are. No wonder Bunce gets a special price for them in the market. All right, Badger, lend me a hand to get them down. You children can help as well. There we go. Goodness me, look how your mouths are watering. And now, I think we had better have a few geese. 3 will be quite enough. We'll take the biggest. Oh my, you'll never see finer geese than these in the king's kitchen. Gently, does it? That's the way. And what about a couple of nice smoked hams? I adore smoked hams, don't you, Badger? Fetch me that stepladder, will you please?" Mr. Fox climbed up the ladder and handed down 3 magnificent hams. "And do you like bacon, Badger?" I'm mad about bacon, cried Badger, dancing with excitement. Let's have a side of bacon. That's a big one up there. And carrots, Dad, said the smallest of three foxes. We must take some of those carrots. Don't be a twerp, said Mr. Fox. You know we never eat things like that. It's not for us, Dad. It's for the rabbits. They only eat vegetables. My goodness me, you're right, cried Mr. Fox. What a thoughtful little fellow you are. Take 10 bunches of carrots. So now what we're seeing is he's not only helping his family, but he's helping Badger's family, and now his son is advocating that they help the rabbit's family because they don't eat meat. Soon, all this lovely loot was lying in a neat heap under the floor. The small foxes crouched close, their noses twitching, their eyes shining like stars. And now, said Mr. Fox, we shall have to borrow from our friend Buns 2 of those useful pushing carts over in the corner. He and Badger fetched the push carts, and the ducks and geese and hams and bacons were loaded onto them. That's a lot of food. Quickly, the push carts were lowered through the hole to the floor. The animals slid down after them. Back in the tunnel, Mr. Fox again pulled the floorboards very carefully into place so that no one could see they had been moved. My darlings, he said, pointing to one of the 3 small foxes, take a cart each and run back as fast as you can to your mother. Give her my love and tell her we are having guests for dinner. The badgers, the moles, the rabbits, and the weasels. Tell her it must be a truly great feast, and tell her the rest of us will be home as soon as we're done with one more little job. Yes, Dad. Right away, Dad, they answered, and they grabbed a trolley each and went rushing down the tunnel. Where do you think they're going? One more job. Right now I can tell that there's 1 farmer, 2 farmers. Chapter 14. Badger has doubts. Just one more visit, cried Mr. Fox. And I'll bet I know where that'll be, said the only small fox now left. He was the smallest fox of them all. Where, said Badger. Well, said the smallest fox, we've been to Pugz, and we've been to Buns, but we haven't been to Bean. It must be Bean. You are right, said Mr. Fox, but what you don't know is which part of Bean's place we are going to visit. Which, they both said together. Aha, said Mr. Fox. Just you wait and see. They were digging as they talked. The tunnel was going forward fast. Suddenly Badger said, Doesn't this worry you just a tiny bit, Foxy? Worry me, said Mr. Fox. What? All this stealing. Mr. Fox stopped digging and stared at Badger as though he had gone completely dotty, which means little cuckoo. My dear old furry frump, he said, do you know anyone in the whole world who wouldn't swipe a few chickens if his children were starving to death? There was a short silence while Badger thought deeply about this. You are far too respectable, said Mr. Fox. There's nothing wrong with being respectful, Badger said. Look, said Mr. Fox, Bogus and Bunce and Bean are out to get us. You realize that, I hope. I do, Foxy, I do indeed, said the gentle Badger, but we're not going to stoop to their level. We don't want to hurt them. I should hope not, indeed, said Badger. So now we are hearing a little bit of reasoning in Badger. I talked about that a little bit in our past video responses to our Flipgrid. Some of you were saying that when you were thinking of the good character, you thought it was Mr. Fox because he's really only trying to feed his family, and I think that's the argument. Even though he is technically stealing their food, he's trying to feed their family, and they're not trying to cause harm to anyone else, and I think that's Mr. Fox's argument to justify what he's doing, but Badger's kind of struggling with that a bit because he's just like, this isn't right, this is a lot of stealing. We wouldn't dream of hurting them, said Mr. Fox. We shall simply take a little food here and there to keep us and our families alive, right? I suppose we'll have to, said Badger. If they want to be horrible, let them, said Mr. Fox. We down here are decent, peace-loving people. Badger laid his hand on one side and smiled at Mr. Fox. Foxy, he said, I love you. Thank you, said Mr. Fox. And now let's get on with digging. 5 minutes later, Badger's front paws hit against something flat and hard. "What on earth is this?" he said. "It looks like a solid stone wall." He and Mr. Fox scraped away the soil. It was a wall, but it was built of bricks, not stones. The wall was right in front of them, blocking their way. "Now, who in the world would build a wall under the ground?" asked Badger. "Very simple," said Mr. Fox. "It's the wall of an underground room. And if I'm not mistaken, it is exactly what I'm looking for." We're going to stop there. We're going to be on chapter 15 tomorrow. What do you think that he landed on? I don't know of any underground secret places. Do you remember something that I'm forgetting? If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you head to our Flipgrid and answer some of the questions that I have for you, and I will see you tomorrow.